Let's do it. Mock Draft 3.0. This is my first mock draft since the 2023 draft lottery, and it'll probably be my last because it is the full first round and it was an absolute bear to edit, but I am pretty proud of it. As a reminder, this mock draft is injected with my personal opinion, so this is not intel based, this is not what I think is going to happen. This is simply what I would do if I were in these team situations. So before you say, hey, Derek, the Trailblazers aren't going to draft so-and-so. I know, I get it, I know that they're not, but this is what I would do if I were in their situation, and I would want to stop living in mediocrity. So anyway, I appreciate everybody watching, following along, subscribing to the channel. It's been a really fun time to get to do this. I'm going to have some fun stuff coming out soon. I think I'm going to start packaging heat checks together and doing team-specific stuff, so yeah, thanks for watching. Here we go. Oh, and by the way, I have been ill over the past week off and on, so if I'm sounding a little more hoarse or low energy, it's because of that, and I apologize, but I'm grinding through for you all. So, easy peasy number 1, congrats again to the San Antonio Spurs, who have landed a generational talent in Victor Wembanyama. He is the future of the franchise and the NBA in general. I love his fit in San Antonio's current configuration of Devin Vassell, Malachi Branham, Keldon Johnson, and Jeremy Sohan, and even if I didn't, it wouldn't matter here. One interesting thought I had that I wanted to note, the Spurs are still thought of as needing a talented point guard. I would love if they just lean heavily into Sohan's development and let him run the offense full time as they're in these early stages of the rebuild. He showed flashes of being able to do it as a rookie, a 6'8" point guard and a 7'4" center. They could really lean into what the NBA is trending towards, and if it doesn't work out, come back in 2024 or look to the market for a point guard. It's just a fun thought. Number 2, and here's where things get immediately more interesting, I am drafting Scoot Henderson 2nd overall to the Charlotte Hornets. But they already have a point guard, I know, but there's absolutely no reason why LaMelo Ball and Scoot Henderson can't coexist together. And even more than that, thrive. They're both phenomenal players, there's no issue with having two handlers and creators. Several teams are already phasing towards that, and it appears to be an integral part of how basketball will be played soon. LaMelo can be a great off-ball piece with his shooting, he shoots 10 threes per game and hits on close to 40% of them, and Scoot can function as an essential lob threat for LaMelo's passing with his athleticism. I also don't think Charlotte is in position to pass on the best available player, and even still, I think Scoot fits here just fine. That's one of the more dynamic backcourts in all of basketball. Take the best player available. If it doesn't work out in a few years, trade one down the line and try something different. But there's no sense in losing out on value here because of a slightly better fit. I've gone with Amen Thompson here at number 3 to the Portland Trailblazers. This is one that I'm going to be very adamant and vocal about as we near the 2023 NBA draft. The Blazers are reportedly already shopping this pick. They're in this middle ground between contention and a rebuild, and I think that is the worst spot to be in the NBA. I don't see this pick moving the needle for me on the trade market. I would draft for the future here, and I would likely trade Dame for a haul of draft picks, prospects, you name it. With that in mind, if Portland presses reset and they have the time to develop a top draft pick, I actually do trust their developmental structure with Amen Thompson, and his fit next to Shaedon Sharpe as the future backcourt of the Blazers is extremely fun. Thompson is likely the best passer in this entire draft, and Sharpe is going to be a phenomenal off-the-catch player. Athletically, no duo could hold a candle to these two paired together. There are few teams I trust to actually preach patience with Amen, but his fit in Portland is an intriguing one for me. On to the 4th overall pick, and we have our first trade. The draft won't be without its fair share of trades, certainly, and I've taken the liberty here to put together one I really feel like benefits both teams. Detroit has moved up one spot to number 4, and Houston has fallen back one spot to number 5. The framework of the trade is essentially centered around Bogdanović and 2 future second-round picks. I think it gets Houston a win-now veteran somewhere in the ballpark of a middle to late first valuation, and tacks on more picks for any additional deals they want to facilitate. Detroit gets to move up to grab a player that fits much better with what they're trying to build, and he covers some of the holes left by Bogdanović. Miller very obviously fits Detroit's current roster infinitely better than any of the other options floating around here. He's an outside specialist, is a good enough passer to make the team better overall, and with multiple star handlers already in Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, he already slots perfectly into that tertiary or ancillary playmaker position, which I think is going to be his ceiling in the NBA anyway. Regardless, he is a really fun fit here. At the back end of this trade, the Rockets come away with a veteran in Bogdanović, a future pick to potentially grab more firepower, and one of my favorite fits for them in this range, Anthony Black. If you've watched my heat check breakdown on him, you know I'm much higher than Black on the consensus. I think AB is going to stick in this league perfectly, and for Houston, who is in need of a lead guard, but will be missing out on Scoot and in this mock Amen, I think he's a great consolation prize. AB covers all of Jalen Green's holes as a backcourt fit. He's a phenomenal passer and perimeter defender, has the playmaking chops to get the ball to Jabari Smith Jr., and is savvy and lengthy enough to potentially get some off-ball buckets next to Alperen Şengün. It's not a flashy pick, Rockets fans, but I promise you this would be a step in the right direction for your franchise. I've got Azar Thompson to Orlando here at 6th overall. This is, I believe, the highest I've had Azar yet. Typically, I get pretty enamored with Keontae George or Anthony Black here. This time, I've opted to add some wing depth to a budding Magic squad. At 6'7"-ish with a 7-foot wingspan, I think Azar slots nicely into the supersized lineup that the Magic are trying to build. No, he's not going to add a ton in the ways of spacing, but I think he's actually going to be fine in that regard down the line, and his athleticism, defense, and connective passing chops all make a pretty instant impact here. Markelle Fultz does a fine job at point guard in the short term and potentially even the long term too, and Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner have the ability to handle the rock just fine. Azar can be added to that list while boosting them in several other areas, and they've still got another lottery pick to address whatever else they need. I think grabbing front court depth here for Indiana at number 7 is going to be vital. They've hit on several guards in the last few drafts, and I like the upside swing here with Jarris Walker. One of the best defenders in the class, there's a real connectedness and unselfishness to his offensive game, and he offers both short-term attributes and long-term upside in the league. He might not fit as seamlessly as Taylor Hendricks on paper, but I think he's overall just a bit better player, and with the savviness that Indiana stars like Tyrese Halliburton already have, I think the fit here eventually works great. I've been saying Indiana feels a few pieces away, and I think Jarris Walker would be a major piece to their puzzle. Swinging for the fences here with Washington at number 8, I've drafted Cam Whitmore out of Villanova. I haven't been shy in my last few mocks about how I'm feeling regarding Washington's current situation, so here I've decided to take the highest ceiling swing that I can, even if that means they may end up with another low floor turnout. Whitmore's fit is fine here, I suppose. I think they could benefit from an athleticism infusion on the wing. The issue lies within whether they're really willing to give a lottery prospect the time of day developmentally. The Wizards are just kind of dawdling in that in-between upside down area. I say swing for the fences and hope that Whitmore's creation turns out to be much more than just flashes, and you can waltz into a new era with a high-flying star. I'm still not totally sure what the Jazz are looking to accomplish in the 2023 draft, what positions they need, or what their end goal is for their roster. Honestly, if I were them, I'd consider trying to get a deal done to get to the 3rd or even 2nd overall pick if possible. Maybe Lauri Markkanen gets them there, who knows. But here at number 9, I've taken my best available player and a guy I see getting some immediate minutes in the backcourt for Utah, Keontae George. I think he's going to be a tremendous scorer in this league and has a ton of care factor on the defensive end. This should be right around his range, give or take. It seems like he's fallen on most expert mocks. That late season injury did a number on his stock for whatever reason, but I think he's easily one of the most talented picks in this draft, and I'd love to see him get a chance to showcase that as the next great Jazz guard. Fun pick here, and something I actually think has a good chance of happening, barring Dallas trading out of this spot, Taylor Hendricks at number 10. The Mavericks need two things next to the supernova that is Luka Doncic, shooting and defense, and Hendricks at 6'9" offers those two things exactly. He shot around 40% on close to 5 attempts as a freshman at UCF, and is one of the more versatile defenders in this entire draft, with his ability to be a weak side shot blocker and his ability to stretch out to the perimeter on occasion with his lightning quick feet. I love the fit, and I really like Dallas just staying put here and drafting. Veterans are obviously going to help the win now agenda more, but Dallas is in this situation because they haven't been taking prospects. I just keep my pick and draft. There are several good options here. Easy pick and easy fit here. Grady Dick, 11th overall to the Orlando Magic. He offers shooting along with the size that the Magic have coveted recently. I love him as an off-ball fit next to Banchero, Wagner, Fultz, and more. Honestly, I'm not so sure Grady is going to be around by this point. I think people are going to be really surprised just how highly he's going to be viewed. He's much more than just a shooter, and if even one of the above teams catches wind of that, I think he'll go much earlier. To the point, I wouldn't be shocked or even fault Orlando for looking at him with number 6. If he's not here though, they could always give Jordan Hawkins a look, someone I don't personally have in the lottery but makes a lot of sense at this specific spot. Another one of my favorite fits, this is for my hometown Oklahoma City Thunder. I've grabbed Cason Wallace at 12 overall. OKC is obviously loaded at guard, that's no secret, SGA, Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, but I think Cason offers too much value and versatility to pass up on here. He's defensively probably the best perimeter defender in this class. OKC being able to flank their lead guard with Cason Wallace and Lu Dort at the same time would be terrifying for the opposition. And then offensively, he can function as a catch and shoot threat next to those guys or command the backup unit as a point guard with his really underrated passing game and managerial style. From everything I've heard, he's also a high character, hard worker that fits great into what the Thunder are building. The Raptors are likely going to be looking at point guards here due to the impending departure of Fred VanVleet, but I'd rather take a shot on the best player available than reach on one of the most important pieces to a win-now team. I think you can look for that elsewhere, and Jalen Hood-Schifino and Kobe Buffkin are close, but just don't do it for me in this specific spot. More than that, I truly think Leonard Miller is a lottery talent in this draft. His Ignite production is undeniable, he's very much an unfinished product with his growth spurt, and the Raptors have shown the ability to develop his type before. He's got some, emphasis on some, Siakam to his game. So in their shoes, I take a swing here, look for point guard on the trade market, maybe Trey Jones or Colin Sexton become available. At worst, you could trade back and grab Hood-Schifino, Buffkin, or even Nick Smith Jr. later. The best case scenario here for Toronto is that Cason Wallace or Anthony Black fall to this spot. I have New Orleans selecting Dariq Whitehead 14th overall. I've had a little bit of a philosophy change here for NOLA. In the past few mocks, I've gone with immediate talent and bolstered their shooting. Here, in almost Michael Porter Jr. fashion, I'm taking a long-term swing on Whitehead, coming back to true form from injury. And if that happens, I do think he will be a top 10 talent in this draft. I think the Pels have some time to spare. They've got plenty more issues to address that a lottery pick isn't going to fix. And fully healthy, he fits great as a big body wing and catch and shoot threat, 43% from 3 at Duke. Assessing what they need with their current core while having Dyson Daniels and a potentially fully healthy Dariq Whitehead waiting in the wings could be a really solid long-term move. At number 15, the Atlanta Hawks have a ton of options here. I've opted for an infusion of perimeter defense and length with some offensive upside down the line in Ryan Rupert of the New Zealand Breakers. Rupert was a former point guard, has a really nice handle, and flashes creation ability here and there. A wrist injury derailed his season with the Breakers, but he was trending towards being a lottery pick before that, and I really buy his upside as a defensive specialist. He might not be an immediate contributor, especially offensively, but if he can tighten up his shooting and general consistency, I think he's going to be a long-time NBA starter. After grabbing Keontae George in the lottery, I like Utah snagging a scoring-minded wing piece in Jet Howard right here. He'd be close to best available for me at this spot, and I think bolstering their wing depth is going to be important for them moving forward. He's also kind of a middle ground pick between this era and the next. He offers immediate floor spacing now, 37% on 7 attempts per game at Michigan, but he's also shown some really tantalizing creation ability that makes me think he might be a legitimate scorer in the NBA down the line. There are concerns defensively, of course, but I'm comfortable with Utah addressing that elsewhere. After posting some of the better defensive performances of the 2022-23 playoffs, I like the Lakers going full steam ahead on offense here and grabbing Ohio State's Bryce Sensabaugh. Point blank, he's going to be one of the better scorers in this entire class. At 6'6"-ish, he's got good catch and shoot numbers, is going to be a mid-range savant, and his at-the-rim numbers only stand to get better with NBA spacing. If his defense wasn't concerning, I'd have absolutely no issue taking him in the lottery. His scoring is that good. I think the Lakers have the defensive identity to cover a prospect like this, and Sensabaugh could offer some nice replacement points should they lose Rui Hachimura or Austin Reeves to free agency this offseason. Good fit here with Miami taking Iowa's Chris Murray 18th overall. We have a sort of template for how Chris can fit in the NBA due to his twin brother Keegan, who made a massive impact for the Kings this season, even in the playoffs, and I think that the Heat will recognize that coming off of a deep playoff run themselves. Obviously, Chris is going to impact the game to a lesser extent off the bat, but it should be a similarly translatable fit overall. Length, shooting, solid defense, etc. Those things make up great role players. I think he's going to be a really helpful piece for a very long time, and I think he's going to be highly coveted in this draft. Golden State is kind of stuck in this in-between phase where they have the core of these former championship teams, albeit a bit older now, and they have this bevy of young prospects, so this selection really could go either way. I think there's a really high chance this one ends up getting traded, but I've opted to select a point guard to add to that young group, who could also see minutes next season as well. At 6'6", Hood-Schifino is a jumbo guard who is a pick-and-roll maestro, loves getting to his spots, and is nifty in the mid-range. His fit in the current Warriors core is a bit of an odd one, and he doesn't offer much in the ways of off-ball scoring, but I like him in a solid developmental system as a point guard of the future. And defensively, I think he could contribute pretty soon, potentially a solid backup point guard should the Warriors choose to move off of Jordan Poole this offseason. I've opted to go with Sidy Cissoko here at number 20 to Houston. I think he could slot in nicely as a forward or even backup shooting guard and provides a really different look than Jalen Green while covering some of the things he isn't so great at. It seemed like I'm harping on Green by taking Anthony Black with pick 5 and now Sidy here, but I'm just trying to look at ways to maximize his game because I do believe in his scoring prowess. Sissoko's kind of made his name as a staunch defender and passer playmaker for the Ignite, two things Green isn't necessarily known for, and I think it would really work to Houston's advantage to have another guy who could get the offensive ball rolling and provide some stingy perimeter defense with a nice frame. Spacing could be an issue here, but hopefully Jabari Smith Jr. gets back on track in year 2 to even that out. An extremely solid combo guard with a high floor, I like Kobe Bufkin here at 21 to tutor under Spencer Dinwiddie for a few years before finally emerging as a true point guard. In the meantime, he offers plenty in the ways of off-ball scoring and decent defense at 6'5". His fit next to hyperscorer Cam Thomas is solid due to his even-keel nature. Even if they don't go Bufkin here, I think Brooklyn would do well to lead with another point guard option in this draft, especially with so many solid ones floating around this range. Alright, first trade post-lottery, a little bit of a slide here for Nick Smith Jr., which I do think has a realistic chance of happening, but I think Utah comes to their senses and trades some future capital for a guy who could turn out to be one of the better players in this entire draft. They've already drafted Keontae George and Jet Howard, so between these three, Markkanen and Walker Kessler, I think they've potentially come away with some really strong options to move forward with. There is quite a bit of redundancy here between George and Smith in the fact that neither is a true point guard and they both shy a hair more towards the two, but I'm totally fine maximizing their chances at landing a star, and I don't think there's any issue with having these two together either. Down the line, both can likely create their own shots, showcase passing chops here and there, and shoot off the catch next to one another. I think it's a perfectly fine gamble for Utah. At number 3, I created a dreamscape in which Portland finally trades Damian Lillard, drafts Amen Thompson, and rides off into the sunset with a hyper-athletic backcourt pairing. And in line with that, I'm taking another swing here at number 23 on French prospect Bilal Coulibaly, who is a project in his own right but could pay massive dividends. A relative unknown until really this last year, Coulibaly is a 6'8" forward with premier athleticism and some really strong scoring potential down the line, who is skyrocketing in the basketball world. He's pretty unproven in several areas, but like I said, if Portland has the time to develop prospects, I really like their system and I'm totally fine swinging for the fences here. The Kings are coming off their best season since I was born, and I like them continuing to put shooting around their current core here with Jordan Hawkins 24th overall. De'Aaron Fox is essentially a superstar, and with his all-time first step and blazing speed, flanking him with the likes of Monk, Murray, and Jordan Hawkins seems like a straightforward but effective game plan to meet. This pick might not necessarily make Sacramento any more versatile, but with his next level movement shooting, I think Hawkins makes a day one impact similar to Murray, which worked out great for Sacktown last year. For Memphis at number 25, I've selected Colby Jones out of Xavier, one of my favorite prospects in this whole draft and someone who very much fits the Grizzlies' recent mold. A do-it-all wing guard who's going to impact the game in a variety of ways, Jones could be a solid replacement for Dillon Brooks with more of an offensive-minded skill set. He's better off the catch, has great touch in the mid-range, with some passing and playmaking intermingled. Overall, he's going to be a really great connective piece who I think will make a strong NBA impact, and I think Memphis has shown to value that archetype in recent years. The most polarizing player in the entire draft, I have absolutely no idea what to do with Gigi Jackson. My heart and my eye test lean lottery, but I simply don't have enough to work off of, so I've drafted him 26th overall to the Indiana Pacers. Barring them trading up and landing a top talent, I think the Pacers are dangerously close to being back in the middle ground or purgatory of the NBA. So I'm fine with a massive gamble here and hoping that Jackson turns into a star, which certainly isn't out of the question. He has unreal creation ability for his size, 6'9", with his concerns being passing playmaking, defense, and overall efficiency. I like Indiana here because they cover all of that pretty easily and can give him the time and leash to develop into a gaudy scoring wing. At number 27, I've drafted Maxwell Lewis to the Charlotte Hornets. After taking Scoot, I like this pick as a potential modern forward to implement next to him and LaMelo Ball. At 6'7", Lewis bears a striking resemblance to some savvy, do-it-all forwards of drafts past, and I think he could be a solid scorer at the next level, leveraging his length, size, strength, and variety of scoring moves in his bag. If his offense doesn't reach its ceiling, he'll at least be a versatile defender and has shown enough as a spot-up shooter to be a valuable selection regardless. The Nets slide out of pick 22, grab some future capital, and move back to a spot that I think offers much better value in terms of big men, and here they grab Noah Clowney 28th overall. At 6'10", Clowney offers real defensive versatility at the power forward position, decent rebounding, which I think the Nets need, and has some floor stretching potential deep down inside somewhere waiting to be tapped into, making his fit next to Nick Claxton in the front court a good one. I think it's a good fit regardless here, but if there was any way to maximize Cam Thomas, surrounding him with a towering front court of Claxton and Clowney and strong wing options in Mikal Bridges and Ben Simmons could be the option. So far, the Pacers have left with Jarris Walker and G.G. Jackson. I'm going to cap off their first round with another big swing in Duke's Derek Lively, 29th overall. With Miles Turner's name constantly in and out of trade rumors, Lively could potentially be a strong replacement down the line as a rim runner, solid interior defender, and potential, emphasis on that, floor stretcher down the line. Lively allows Jarris to thrive as a roving defensive menace and gives Tyrese Halliburton a solid lob threat. I think he'd be far from an immediate contributor, but big picture, I like Lively's fit here. An interior enforcer who could be a great replacement should Los Angeles decide to move off of Ivica Zubac. I like James Nagy here as the final pick of the first round. At 6'10", Nagy isn't going to wow you in any non-traditional ways, but he is going to do all of the dirty work well for a Clippers team that requires just that with already established stars. He's going to be a solid rim protector and interior scorer, he'll set screens, grab rebounds, and use his massive frame to make life harder on the opposition. I like him as a cheap center replacement for a team who could stand to upgrade in a few different areas. That is it for Mock Draft 3.0, potentially the last one of the cycle unless I really feel like going through this editing process again. We have aired towards originality once again. I know there's going to be a lot of disagreements, but I think there were some fun selections and I think there was some sound reasoning with it all. Drop a like, drop a subscribe, do all the fun stuff, tell your friends, and we'll see you next time.